Arthur, once known as King Grey, finds himself surrounded by darkness with a dim light in the distance. He recalls hearing about the phenomenon of the light at the end of the tunnel, a supposed vision people experience during near-death moments. Though he had never believed in such tales, he now finds himself in that very situation. As the light intensifies, Arthur struggles to remember how he died. His last memory is of standing alone in his room, gazing at the cityscape below. Soon after, his body had felt unbearably heavy, and he collapsed onto his bed. Could he have been poisoned? Assassinated? Given his status as a king, there were certainly many who wanted him dead. However, dwelling on his death serves no purpose now. He has no choice but to move forward. Still, he jokes to himself that he hopes there isn't some heavenly choir waiting for him. Suddenly, the light completely engulfs him, and he hears an unfamiliar voice. "Congratulations, sir and madam! He's a healthy boy!" Arthur sees blurry figures around him. As the haze fades slightly, he discerns two individuals, his new parents. His mind races as he comes to the shocking realization. Was I just born? A man and a woman look down at him with warm smiles. The woman holds him gently, her voice filled with love as she remarks, "He has your hair." The man, with his strong jaw and sharp brows, appears strict at first glance. But the illusion is quickly broken when he speaks excitedly. "Hi, little Art, I'm your daddy. Can you say Dada?" Arthur is taken aback by the man's playful and childish tone, and the woman quickly scolds him. "Ray, he was just born!" Life as an infant. As weeks pass, Arthur learns about his new parents. His mother, Alice, is kind and gentle, yet she clearly holds authority in the household. His father, Reynolds, is a charismatic and dependable man, though he has moments of childishness. While Arthur is grateful to have been born into a loving family, he finds infancy incredibly frustrating. His once powerful body is now weak, his limbs barely functional, and he has no control over even the most basic bodily functions. For someone who was once a king, this helplessness feels like a cruel joke. Still, his mental resilience, honed through years of ruling a kingdom, keeps him from spiraling into despair. A small part of him even wonders if this is all a dream, a glimpse of the outside world. One day, Alice takes Arthur to the marketplace, and he observes his surroundings with curiosity. He quickly realizes that this world is nothing like his previous one. It resembles an archaic, medieval-like society. What surprises him most is how common weapons seem to be. People casually walk around with swords and daggers strapped to their waists. He also notices suspicious-looking vials being sold, labeled as medicine. Are these even legal? He wonders, realizing that alchemy or magic might be real in this world. Alice, unaware of his thoughts, gently pats him and says, "My little Art must be tired. Let's head home." Back home, Arthur continues analyzing his surroundings, determined to gain a firm understanding of this world. However, his father interrupts his thoughts with an energetic entrance. "Daddy's home? How's my little man doing?" Without warning, Reynolds tosses Arthur high into the air. The sudden movement terrifies him. His fragile baby body is utterly powerless against the fall. Alice panics, scolding Reynolds, "Ray, what if you drop him?" But Reynolds laughs, claiming that Arthur is enjoying it. Just as Arthur recovers from the shock, Reynolds starts shaking him playfully, but a moment later, he accidentally bumps Arthur's leg against the wall. Pain shoots through Arthur's tiny body, and he bursts into tears. Alice immediately rushes to his side, cradling him with concern. Placing her hand over his injury, she softly murmurs an incantation, and to Arthur's astonishment, a gentle glow of magic envelops him. Within moments, his pain disappears completely. Arthur stares in shock. This is magic. A concept he had only seen in fairy tales and myths in his past life now exists in front of his very eyes. His belief that he could understand this world based on past experience shatters instantly. Perhaps I know nothing of this world after all. The smallest victory. Arthur, a former king who once led armies and defeated the strongest warriors, finds himself celebrating his greatest accomplishment yet, crawling. His pride swells as he moves across the floor with determination, an achievement that feels almost laughable given his past life. As he explores his surroundings, his parents, Alice and Reynolds, hurriedly set up barriers to prevent him from bumping into furniture. "Ray, make sure he doesn't hit his head on that corner," Alice calls out. "Okay, you block him from getting near that shelf," Reynolds responds. Arthur, however, is momentarily distracted by his own reflection in a nearby mirror. He admires his new appearance, taking in his chubby cheeks, bright eyes, and soft baby hair. His parents gush over the adorable sight, but Arthur, in his mind, finds the name Art far too cute for someone who was once a king. Still, he can't deny the truth. "I have to admit, I'm absolutely adorable." As he giggles at his own reflection, he playfully thinks, "Watch out, future ladies! Prepare to be heartbroken." Mission: sneak out. Later that night, Alice tucks him into bed, gently whispering, "Sweet dreams, my little Art." She leaves, closing the door behind her. The second she's gone, Arthur's eyes snap open. Mission start. He carefully throws his blanket to the floor and struggles to climb out of the cradle, landing safely on the soft fabric. Now free, he crawls across the room, heading toward his secret destination, the bookshelf. Ever since discovering the library in his home, he had been sneaking in at night to learn more about this world, discovering the world of Duckathan. Among the books, he finds one that details the geography of this world. Duckathan, the continent he now inhabits, consists of 3 major kingdoms. Eleanor, the elven kingdom, hidden deep within the vast forests. Darv, the underground kingdom, home to the dwarves. Sappan, the largest and most populated human kingdom. Like his previous world, Duckathan follows a monarch system, but power is inherited rather than earned. While much of this world appears to be underdeveloped, Arthur soon realizes the reason for the lack of technological advancement: magic. Dat, unveiling the mystery of mana. Arthur's gaze lands on a golden-covered book titled Beginner's Guide for the Privileged Mage. He eagerly flips through the pages, fascinated by the concept of mana, which resembles the ki of his previous life. However, while ki could only be cultivated within a person, mana exists all around the world and can be harnessed by those with the right genetic potential. Statistically, only 1 in 100 children possess the ability to use mana. Before continuing his studies, he pauses, irritated by an itch. "Cursed diaper rash," he grumbles in his mind. Shaking off the discomfort, he continues reading about the 2 primary uses of mana. 1. Augmenting, strengthening the body with mana, increasing strength, speed, and defense. However, augmenters lack ranged abilities and must rely on close combat. 2. Conjuring, releasing mana externally to manipulate the environment and cast spells. Conjurers, however, must constantly absorb mana from their surroundings to sustain their magic. Arthur learns that his mother, Alice, is a deviant, a rare type of emitter who can use healing magic. He also discovers that mages awaken their mana core during adolescence, much like how ki warriors in his past life had to cultivate their power through meditation. A glimpse of power. Curious, Arthur decides to test whether he can sense mana. Closing his eyes, he focuses his mind, recalling his past training. As he concentrates, he suddenly sees faint specks of light forming deep within his body. Slowly, the tiny fragments of mana begin gathering together, flickering like stars in the void. "It's working! Before he can celebrate, a hand suddenly grabs him from behind. An embarrassing end. Alice lifts him into her arms, sighing in relief. "There you are, Art! You had me worried." She suddenly sniffs the air. "Oh, honey, are you having trouble taking a poopy?" Arthur freezes in horror. "Mother, I'm about to begin my journey to become the greatest mage in his world. Do not make me out to be a constipated infant." Ignoring his internal protests, Alice lays him down and changes his diaper. As Arthur stares up at the ceiling in utter humiliation, he begrudgingly admits to himself, "It turns out that amidst my concentration, I had indeed soiled my diaper." Alice sits by a table, writing in her journal with a soft smile. It's been a little over 2 years now, yet it still feels like I'm learning more and more about my baby with each passing day. She has come to a firm conclusion. Arthur is the most adorable child. His patch of auburn hair and intelligent azure eyes make her heart melt. But deep inside, she knows he is going to be trouble when he grows up. I need to be a strict and dependable mother. I certainly can't rely on Ray. She remembers catching her husband, Reynolds, teaching Arthur how to fight, while the boy could barely even crawl. For goodness sake, I caught him trying to teach my baby how to wield a stick. Both father and son had looked terrified when she confronted them, making Alice sigh at her husband's antics. Despite her worries, she adores spending time with Arthur. One of their favorite activities is visiting the small merchants' market in central Ashbur. Rather than shopping once or twice a week, we go downtown every other day. Arthur is fascinated by the market, especially the gemstones and the mages performing magic. Alice reassures herself that she isn't spoiling him. After all, fresh food and education are good reasons to go frequently. Yet one thing troubles her. If only I could stop him from sneaking into the study every night, maybe I should just move his crib into the library. She sighs, knowing that's a battle for another day, and closes her journal. The disappointment of magic. Arthur watches his father from the window, observing curiously. 2 years have passed since my first journey to the study. I've learned a lot, yet every day in this world is fascinating. Outside, Reynolds is attempting magic. He stands firm, his hands spread wide, and chants something incomprehensible. Arthur waits in anticipation. What sort of magical phenomenon will he conjure? After 3 full minutes of intense concentration, Reynolds finally unleashes his spell. A couple of small pebbles float up and fling forward. Arthur stares blankly, completely unimpressed. That's it! 3 minutes of utmost focus, just to throw something you could have tossed with your hands? Reynolds, however, beams with pride and looks up at his son, giving him a huge thumbs up. Your daddy is awesome, huh? He grins. Arthur remains silent, expressionless. Behind him, Alice walks up and pats his head. Are you watching your dad? She pauses, noticing the ruined front yard. Oh, for goodness sake, he ruined the yard again! Arthur quickly learns that his father is an augmenter, a mage who enhances their body with mana. This makes him wonder, what will I become when my mana core awakens? He watches Reynolds, shadow fighting outside, lost in his own world, while Arthur and Alice observe him through the window. Arthur stands on a table, attempting to climb down, but the moment he looks down, a sudden realization strikes him. He's afraid of heights. His tiny body trembles as he struggles to lower himself. Alice, calmly sitting nearby, watches with mild amusement. Your eyes are half closed, baby. Before he can embarrass himself further, Alice picks him up and kisses his cheek. Looks like someone needs a nap. But Arthur has other plans. He stretches his hands toward the book room. Mama, books, he pleads. Alice smiles knowingly. Not now, honey. You know it's nap time. Maybe after. Arthur, however, is not giving up. He activates his ultimate weapon. With twinkling eyes, an innocent pout, and tiny hands joined together, he makes the most adorable pleading face. Please, Mama, books? Alice struggles to resist, but ultimately crumbles under the unbearable cuteness. Okay, you can play in the study for a little bit. As Arthur victoriously walks toward the bookshelves, Alice shakes her head at herself. I am not a doting mother. Boys his age need to play, and the study is baby-proofed anyway. Watching him gleefully reach for a book, she can't help but smile. Progress in forming the mana core. With his mother preoccupied, Arthur sits alone in the study. Aside from accumulating knowledge about this world, my greatest accomplishment is my progress in forming my mana core. He closes his eyes and begins meditating. For the past 2 years, Arthur had been slowly gathering tens of thousands of tiny mana fragments inside his body. A faint white glow appears near his heart as he carefully brings them together near his solar plexus. I can see why this process usually takes until adolescence. The fragments move incredibly slowly and the task is exhausting for both body and mind. But these 2 years have not been wasted. I am almost there. Tiny, glowing mana fragments inside him violently react, triggering an unexpected eruption of power. Boom! Alice, panic-stricken, tries to run inside, but Reynolds quickly grabs her, stopping her from entering. Alice and Reynolds watch in horror as their home trembles from the overwhelming energy. The house lies in ruins, smoke rising into the sky. Reynolds and Alice stand frozen, their eyes wide with shock. "You okay, honey?" Alice's heart pounds in her chest. "Art? Art's still inside." Without hesitation, Reynolds dashes towards the house, rubble flying everywhere. He pushes through the debris, his hands bleeding from the sharp wreckage. Please let him be okay. As he reaches the center of destruction, he sees something that makes him stop dead in his tracks. A soft, nervous chuckle escapes his lips. Ha, ha, and then he bursts into laughter. Alice, who had rushed in after him, stares in horror. "Reynolds, what's wrong?" Reynolds, still laughing in disbelief, wipes the sweat from his brow. "Reynolds, you've got to be kidding me. He's not even 3, but he's already..." Follows his gaze. In the midst of the wreckage, floating midair in a meditative posture, is Arthur. His tiny body hums with energy, mana swirling around him. His expression is peaceful, eyes closed in deep concentration. Alice clutches her chest, unable to process what she's witnessing. Slowly, Arthur descends to the ground. He still doesn't realize what just happened. His eyes flutter open. Arthur stretches his arms and takes a deep breath. "Wow, I feel great! So this is what it feels like to have a mana core." He glances around, still dazed. Even the trees look greener. Wait, he finally notices the destruction around him. The walls have collapsed. Arthur blinks. Trees? Then realization dawns. His eyes widen. Wait a minute. What the hell? He looks at his stunned parents. Were we attacked? Who dares destroy the home of a king? A year later, training begins. Arthur lies in bed, flipping through the pages of a book. Besides rebuilding our house, a lot has happened this past year. Alice has been teaching him how to read and write. At the same time, he has started learning the basics of mana manipulation and augmentation. His father, eager to train him, has been pushing him through physical workouts since his body was still too small for sparring. Running, push-ups, it was just basic endurance training at first. But not too long ago, on his 3rd birthday, his father finally gave him a wooden sword. Since then, I've been learning real combat techniques. Just as he's reminiscing, the door bursts open. "Ray, it's time to train, champ. I have your sword. Now, come on!" They stand in the backyard. Reynolds holds a small wooden stick, grinning. "Now remember what I taught you. Match the flow of mana with your breathing." Arthur nods, gripping his wooden sword. "Just like your heart or lungs, your mana core is another organ. Feel it, control it." I wonder if most 4-year-olds would understand these abstract instructions. But he doesn't have a choice. Arthur takes his stance. Reynolds smirks and readies himself. The two exchange blows. Reynolds easily dodges every attack, laughing. "Come on, I know you can do better." Arthur clenches his jaw. "He's not going to let me rest until I succeed, and I still need time to study before dinner." Mana begins gathering around Arthur's body. The light around him grows stronger. He lunges forward, striking with all his might. Reynolds raises his stick to block. Crack! The wooden stick shatters, a piece flying across the yard. He stares, stunned. Arthur lowers his sword. "Arthur, can I go study now?" Blinks, still processing what just happened. Yeah, sure, Art." Mana core meditation. Back in his room, Arthur sits cross-legged, meditating. In this world, strength is measured by the color of your mana core. The process of purifying a mana core is long and difficult. It starts off black, tainted with impurities. But over time, as one filters out these impurities, the core evolves. The stages are as follows: black, red, orange, yellow, silver, white. Each stage is split into 3 shades, dark, solid, and light. The lighter the color, the purer and stronger the core. Alice's voice suddenly echoes through the house. Arthur, time for dinner." Arthur grits his teeth. Curses. Cut to the dinner table. Arthur sits between his parents, chewing on his food. "Can't a baby get some alone time around here?" How else am I supposed to learn? Reynolds suddenly clears his throat, hesitant. Honey, I think it's time we get Art a proper mentor. He's only 4, Reynolds. Besides, you said you'd be able to teach him. Exactly. But I never expected our son to be such a mana manipulation prodigy at 4 years old. I'm holding him back. He's got so much potential. I'm not having my child leave home to some city hundreds of miles away. Cyrus isn't just some city, Reynolds shot back. And I'll make sure my friend takes care of him. Neither parent was willing to concede, their argument fading into heavy silence. Eventually, both turned to Arthur, who had been listening quietly. Reynolds softened his tone. Art, you have a say in this as well. Do you want to go to a big city and have a real teacher? Arthur blinked, caught off guard. Wait, he's letting me decide? Isn't this a bit too much to ask of a 4-year-old? He hesitated, then swallowed a mouthful of food before asking, Can't Mommy and Daddy come too and meet the teacher together? For a moment, there was complete silence. His parents exchanged glances. Arthur sat there, utterly confused. Did I say something wrong? Was my sentence too complicated? Bursting into laughter. I guess we really didn't think about all of us going together. Alice, wiping a tear from her eye, nodded. I might feel better about this if I'm there when he's tested and meets his teacher. Reynolds smacked the table, sending his plate rattling, his excitement returning. Then it looks like we're all going to Cyrus City. That night, Arthur lay in bed, flipping through the pages of a book, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. The decision had been made so suddenly, and now they were leaving first thing in the morning. As he scanned the text, the door creaked open, and his mother entered. With a playful smirk, she snatched the book from his hands. You need to get to bed, mister. We're heading out early tomorrow. Arthur sat up abruptly. Tomorrow so fast? Alice sighed, placing the book on a shelf. I know, honey. I hate rushing like this, too. But your dad's old friends from the Twin Horns are going to Cyrus as well, so they're taking us along. Your dad is with them right now, making preparations. I better not catch you staying up reading again. You can bring some books for the trip tomorrow, so go to sleep. Arthur sighed, defeated. Okay, Mom. Good night. Sweet dreams, honey. As he lay staring at the ceiling, Arthur's mind raced. The Twin Horns? I knew they had been in the area for a while, even helping rebuild our home when they had the time. From what I heard, the party consisted of 2 conjurers and 3 augmenters. This would help with whatever troubles we might run into. He exhaled slowly. I'm finally moving on from this small, quiet town. It's time to see what this world truly has to offer. The journey begins. Morning came sooner than expected. The sun had barely risen when Arthur found himself walking alongside his parents, bags in hand. The Twin Horns were already gathered, making their final preparations. Reynolds greeted them with a wide grin. Thanks again for taking us with you on this trip. Fellas, I want you all to meet my son. Arthur, introduce yourself. Arthur took a deep breath and stepped forward. Hello, my name is Arthur Leywin. Thank you for allowing us to travel with you to Cyrus. A short laugh came from Adam Crench, an augmenter specializing in spear combat. Such manners! You sure Ray is your dad, kid? Arthur barely had time to react before he was suddenly yanked into a tight embrace, pressing him against something soft. Too soft. He's just too precious. Be thankful you look more like your mom. Arthur flailed helplessly. What's going on? I can't breathe. Angela, you're hurting him. A deep, slow voice cut in, and suddenly Arthur felt himself being lifted out of her grip. The man who had rescued him was Durden Walker, a conjurer specializing in earth magic. With a relaxed expression, he placed Arthur gently on the ground. He's slow, like a sloth, Arthur thought, catching his breath. Nearby, a girl sat on a wooden fence, her dual daggers resting against her hips. Her gaze was sharp, calculating, but she didn't say a word. When Arthur met her eyes, she simply nodded before standing and walking toward the carriage. Don't mind her. She just needs to get used to you, another woman beside her said with a kind smile. She extended a hand to Arthur. Arthur, my name is Helen Shard. Arthur shook her hand. Nice to meet you too, Miss Helen. With the introductions complete, Reynolds turned to the group. All right, now that everyone's gotten acquainted, let's prepare to move on. As the last of the supplies were loaded into the carriage, the group readied themselves. The twin horns took their positions, ensuring everything was in place. Everyone ready? We're all good here. With a final glance at the village he had called home, Arthur took a deep breath. This is it! Let's go! And with that, the journey to Xyrus City began.